The air conditioning at the opulent Lekki reception venue struggled against the sheer wattage of the 400 guests and the heavy silk of Adara's train. Adara, the bride, stood beside her handsome, if slightly bewildered groom, Bayo, radiating an unnerving calmness. She was a woman who always needed to command a room, but today she was commanding history. Her goal wasn't just to marry Bayo, it was to use this platform to achieve something much larger, something she had been meticulously planning for 6 months. Her first and most scandalous act was visible in the VIP seating section. She had invited every significant man from her past, all 5 of them. Femi, Chidi, Tunde, Kunle, and Segun sat scattered but equally uncomfortable, looking like survivors of a shared, complicated accident. Each man represented a different chapter of her dramatic 20s, and each one believed they had been the most formative. Bayo's mother, Chief Mrs. Adebayo, shot Adara dagger eyes over her gele, clearly baffled by the audacity of the bride's guest selection. Adara just smiled, a private knowing curl of her lip. The shaku-shaku music throbbed, the jollof rice was hot, and the time for the speeches was fast approaching. Adara knew the moment the microphone was handed over, her beauty. The men Adara had summoned were a carefully curated collection of her romantic history. Femi, the first love, was a smooth-talking oil and gas executive, arrogant and possessive. Chidi, the university flame, was now a celebrated, quiet software engineer who still looked at her with regret. Tunde was the brief whirlwind affair, a famous Lego socialite and club owner known for his flashy lifestyle. Kunle, the rebound, was a perpetually brooding photographer, observing the scene with professional cynicism. Finally, there was Segun, the most recent, a soft-spoken architect who thought they were simply taking a break, not ending things entirely. Each one had been lured by Adara's vague, yet insistent text. "You must be there. I need you to witness this." They all harbored a tiny, irrational sliver of hope that the invitation was a sign of lingering feeling, or perhaps a final, dramatic attempt to win her back. Bayo, the groom, was a respected pharmaceutical distributor, solid, dependable, and deeply, blindingly in love. He saw the invitation of the exes as a sign of Adara's transparency and maturity. "She has nothing to hide, Mogbo," he'd told his skeptical friends. But as Twinde, dressed in an aggressively bright, bespoke suit, caught Femi's eye across the room, the silent acknowledgement of their shared history created a palpable, poisonous tension that only Adara seemed to enjoy. The master of ceremonies, after several rounds of tired jokes, called upon a special guest to offer a toast. To the collective gasp of the guests, Femi, Adara's first serious ex, rose from his seat, adjusting the cufflinks on his perfectly tailored suit. He walked confidently to the microphone, his smile wide and predatory. Bayo, surprised, clapped heartily, still seeing this as a sign of Adara's exceptional graciousness. Femi raised his glass, the clinking sound silencing the hall. "To Adara," he began, his voice dripping with false sincerity, "a woman who always knows how to leave an impression. My time with her was educational." He paused, letting the word hang in the charged air. He then launched into a story, ostensibly about a vacation, but quickly pivoting to a thinly veiled, humiliating anecdote about Adara's reckless, high-spending nature, detailing how she once bought a ridiculously expensive puppy only to give it away 2 weeks later because it interrupted her sleep. It wasn't the anecdote that was scandalous, but the venom in his delivery and the way he pointedly addressed Bayo. "I just hope Bayo has a bigger dog crate and a much, much bigger bank account than I did." he finished with a sneer. The crowd muttered, horrified. Chidi looked down. Tunde smirked, and Bayo's smile evaporated, replaced by a dark, wounded confusion. Before the MC could reclaim the microphone, Chidi, the reserved software engineer, walked up, taking the glass from Femi. The atmosphere was no longer festive. It was a morbid spectacle. Chidi looked genuinely pained, less spiteful than Femi, yet his words cut deeper because of his gentle demeanor. I dated Adara when we were still studying, Chidi murmured, his eyes fixed on Adara, who simply watched him, still perfectly composed. She taught me a lot about management, specifically how to manage multiple complex, simultaneous projects without any overlap. The metaphor was clear and brutal. He was publicly accusing her of infidelity, or at best, a complete lack of commitment. He detailed an instance when he'd flown to Abuja for a conference and had sent Adara pictures from his hotel room. She replied with a photo of a view from what I later realized was the same hotel, but a different room, different floor, different time zone entirely, he confessed, his voice cracking slightly. I always wondered whose trip that was. Bayo's hand, which had been resting on Adara's back, clenched into a fist. Chief Mrs. Adebio let out a theatrical, echoing sigh. The guests, who had initially been shocked, were now completely captivated, their phones discreetly raised, recording the unfolding drama, every juicy detail captured for posterity. The floodgates were now open. Tunde, the club owner, swaggered to the front, taking over the microphone with relish. "My turn to praise the bride," he roared, lifting his glass to Adara. Tunde's story was less about cheating and more about her calculated emotional coldness, detailing how she had dumped him just hours before they were meant to fly to Dubai, claiming she needed more drama in her life than he could afford. Kunle, the photographer, then took the opportunity to display several unflattering, intensely personal photos he had taken of her during their relationship on the large projector screen, images that exposed her vulnerability and, arguably, her lack of genuine feeling. Finally, Segun, the architect, stood up. His face pale with confusion and distress, he confessed that Adara had been sleeping at his house just 3 weeks ago, claiming she had been having cold feet about marrying Bayo and was seeking comfort. Bayo, unable to take the public onslaught any longer, roared, "Enough!" He looked utterly broken, his expensive tuxedo suddenly seeming too heavy, too formal for this messy, heartbreaking disaster. The 5 exes stood together, a united front of scorn and betrayal, their mission to destroy the wedding seemingly accomplished. Adara's name, reputation, and the wedding itself lay in shattered pieces on the marble floor of the reception hall. The room was silent, save for the frantic whispers and the low, devastated sobs of Bayo's mother. Bayo stared at Adara, his eyes pools of betrayal, asking silently, why? Adara finally moved. She straightened her dress, took the microphone from a shell-shocked Segun, and cleared her throat. She did not look at Bayo. She looked directly at the crowd, particularly at the dozens of raised phone cameras. "Thank you, gentlemen," she said, her voice clear and carrying, entirely devoid of shame or sadness. That was a beautiful and remarkably candid performance. She then delivered the shocking plot twist. It wasn't a betrayal, she announced, smirking at the collective gasp. It was a scene. She revealed that for the past 2 months, she had secretly engaged all 5 men in separate, simultaneous conversations, manipulating their shared resentment of her past breakups. She had fed them each a slightly different, equally humiliating story about her weaknesses and Bayo's blind trust, ensuring they would all come prepared to warn the groom. She even paid Kunle for the use of the photos and wrote Segun's cold feet script. Her exes, realizing they had been masterfully played, looked as horrified as Bayo. The shocking reality was that they hadn't humiliated her, They had just become puppets in her ultimate drama. Adara's eyes, bright and triumphant, scanned the captivated audience. "I didn't invite you to my wedding for closure or for Bayo's benefit," she declared, stepping away from her shattered groom. "I invited you for the views, the shares, the likes, and the virality." She then revealed her true, ruthless ambition. Adara wasn't just a bride. She was a fledgling social media guru who had been trying to land a lucrative, life-changing content creation contract with a powerful, international luxury brand, a brand that specialized in products for scandalous and unapologetic personalities. The contract required a world-class, unprecedented display of audacity and public self-destruction to launch the campaign. Adara's goal was not marriage or love, but infamy. She needed to break the internet with a story so juicy, so scandalous, and so perfectly tailored to her persona that the contract would be undeniable. The orchestrated humiliation of her 5 exes and the subsequent breakdown of her high society wedding was the ultimate content drop designed to hit the brand's specific metrics. She pointed to a corner of the room where a professional film crew, disguised as the official wedding videographers, had captured every single minute of the chaos, including Bayo's tears and her ex's shocked faces. The room remained frozen in stunned silence. Adara's ultimate goal, according to the shocking requirements of the story's title, was not just to walk away with Bayo, but to use the shocking event to propel herself to the peak of her desired success. She pulled a large, elaborately sealed envelope from a hiding place beneath the cake table. "Gentlemen," she announced, holding the envelope aloft, "this spectacle just paid off." She opened the envelope and read the text of the multi-million naira contract. "Congratulations, Adara. The launch is a success. We are ready to onboard the Queen of Scandal." Bayo, finally processing the truth, didn't storm off. He stepped forward, grabbing her hand and raising it to the crowd. A sudden, massive roar erupted from the guests. The ultimate plot twist was that Bayo, fully aware of Adara's ambition and this specific goal, had secretly agreed to the plan. He was not heartbroken. He was her co-conspirator, fully prepared to be the gullible, heartbroken groom in exchange for his 10% cut and the fame that would elevate his own pharmaceutical business. Adara had achieved her goal. She had leveraged the pain and humiliation of her past relationships to secure a future of scandalous celebrity. The wedding was a success, not a marital one, but a financial and viral one, securing Adara's reign as Nigeria's most audacious influencer.